All right, we had to cut that video just a little bit short, but if you want to watch the full thing, you can find it on YouTube for sure. So we are back with our last segment with Mr. Larry Lindenman. Now, I do have a question, which this is going to an echo chamber because everybody's probably going to agree.
Yeah.
We talk about confirmation bias, but at the same time, you have a unique perspective on this with your background in law enforcement, specifically in Chicago. What is your take on gun control? Does it work? Because Chicago is very strict. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, it's bullshit.
There you go.
There you go. Done. I mean, philosophically, I'm a strict constitutionalist. You know, I certainly believe in the ability. You know, I guess the question I would ask is that what's your option? What's your option? You're being attacked. You know, do you believe there's evil people in the world? I mean, do you believe that there's people out in the world that are evil, that are sociopaths, they're psychopaths, that have, you know, a sociopath is defined by the fact that they have no empathy. And if you believe that that exists, which it would take you 3 seconds on Google to find thousands of examples of these people that we're swimming with in the same pond. And if you believe those people exist, you have to understand that you're not going to be able to avoid them, or that some people are not going to be able to avoid them. So if you're not able to avoid them, and because they're sociopaths, because they lack empathy, you can't negotiate with them. They're going to take what they want. That's what defines them. That's who they are. That's the way that they survive. That's the way they make a living. That's their job. What's your option?
Yeah.
Are you going to run? Okay, great. What happens if they're faster than you? Now you can't run. What's your option? If your option is to die, not a great option.
Yeah, not a great option. But what did you...
So self-defense is a basic human right, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I've had people on from the UK, and we've actually got some people watching from the UK right now. You have my sympathy. You do. I mean, the stories that I've heard out there, it's horrific. I can't even... You know, it's just horrible that you're basically not allowed to protect yourself. You know, that's...
Well, and yeah, I mean, and all of our mass shootings occur in gun-free zones.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing that, because obviously people say this and agree to it, but I mean, you would have more experience with this. Disarming the law-abiding public, criminals are still getting guns. I mean, people are getting shot in Chicago. So somebody's getting guns, and clearly, you know, they're not going, oh, but it's illegal, so I'm not gonna, you know.
That is what criminals are known for.
Yeah.
Sticking to the
Sticking
law.
to the law.
Right. So we have a restriction on concealed carry in Illinois, where any place of business could put a little sticker on their door. It has to be visible, and if that sticker's on the door, you can't conceal carry in there. And, you know, people find it shocking that those places get armed rob. Well, it said you can't have a firearm in there.
Did you read it? It's on the door.
Yeah, it's on the door. You can't rob me. So it's like, so the thing that cracks me up is like, so you have a concealed carry holder who's been vetted as not having a violent past. They don't have a criminal history. You're restricting that person from going into that store. Yet the criminal's going to do whatever the hell they want because that's what defines them. They're criminals.
Yeah.
So, you know, I find it interesting in this continual push to legislate away the rights of law-abiding citizens, while on the other end, that same group is supporting the criminal element as much as they possibly can. It's the thing that sort of freaks me out about it. Is like So we're going to allow, we're going to be we're going to defend people that use weapons as tools to victimize others. So we're going to defend them, but we're going to punish the law-abiding citizen by continually layering on laws that restrict their access and use of a tool that could potentially save their lives. So, I mean, and again, preaching to the choir, I'm sure there's people out there that are absolutely fucking freaking out right now going, that is not true. Little kids are being killed, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This is my belief. Just saying.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, I clearly the issue is that what do we do? You know, we're not going to go out there and you're not going to send the police out and start doing door-to-door searches for firearms.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. This is the thing. The same people that are saying this, it doesn't like the argument doesn't even have internal logic, because on one side they're saying, nobody should have access to the term assault rifle or machine gun gets thrown around. I'm like, you don't even know what things are called. Just, but they don't want anybody having access to it. But at the same time, they're saying, fuck the police, or the government is this, the government is that. So, but then why do you want the government to be the only one with access to firearms? So on one side, you're saying the government is terrible, but on the other end, you want them to protect you and be the only ones with firearms. Like, what sense does that make?
Odd. Well, Jack Donovan has a really interesting essay about violence, and the essay's argument is that if you want to legislate, let's say you want to legislate that rifles are illegal. What you're advocating for is, anytime you advocate for a law, that law means nothing if it's not backed up with violence. Mm-hmm. State-supported violence, but violence. So if you say, hey, I'm going to restrict 15-round magazines, you say we're going to restrict it to 7 rounds, and you have to turn all your 15-round magazines in, and now you make it illegal to possess 15-round magazines. Well, how are we going to enforce that? Mm. Well, we have to have ultimately any law has the threat of violence behind it. If the cops don't show up at your door with a search warrant, knock it down, use a battering ram to come in and take your shit, then that law doesn't mean anything. So every time somebody legislates anything, you can't have plastic straws, that legislation is ultimately backed up by the force of violence. So what you're advocating for is more violence. Mm-hmm. So I find it very interesting but it's state violence, so no problem.
Yeah, all good.
But the state sucks. The state sucks. So I find that argument to be kind of stupid.
Do you think it's an increase in this kind of metropolitan idea? I mean, men are becoming more effeminate. We're hearing more about toxic masculinity and all of the things that in a crisis, people want the thick-necked, strong dude to be the one to come with the axe and chop down the door of the burning building and carry out the baby and all that stuff. But we live in this metropolitan kind of modernized society where people act like, well, violence isn't going to find me. They get like this delusional. Yeah, I don't know if it's just a cultural thing where parents and fathers aren't taking their kids hunting anymore, or if it's just because it seems like a lot of the people I'm hearing talk about firearms specifically don't know anything about firearms. They know nothing about it. My favorite was one of these legislators. He's holding a shotgun and he's calling it like an AK-47 or something. He's like, this is a semi-automatic, right? He's holding a 12-gauge shotgun. I'm like, who's buying this?
Yeah, well, the same guy has the Capitol Police guarding his office building, and so it's interesting. I mean, I'm not like a militia dude, and I'm not like I grew up in the city of Chicago. There's strict gun control. I grew up actually in a town called Morton Grove that had actual gun control laws in the 1970s that were overturned. But when I was growing up, it was legal to own a gun in the village that I lived in. So, I mean, certainly I've lived with it for a long time. We look at the UK. I mean, if people want to be violent, people are going to be violent. Mm-hmm. It's not, the gun doesn't, you don't get a gun and then you go, you know what? Next time somebody cuts me off in traffic, I'm going to frickin' shoot them right in the face. Yeah. Because if you haven't done that your whole life, if you haven't stabbed somebody or run them over, or you're not a sociopath, then the gun's not going to make you a sociopath. Right. Certainly, guns in the hands of sociopaths, guns in the hands of psychopaths, guns in the hands of the mentally unstable. Not a good mixture. Right. Not a good mixture.
Well, and like we were talking about before, it's like, using the UK as another example, is I read this article, because obviously since they don't have access to firearm, knife crime has went up, and using baseball bats and, just tools or wrenches or whatever. It doesn't matter. Of course. Hammers. So now they're going, well, we need to pass legislation to make I read this article where they're trying to make it so that you cannot own a kitchen knife with a point on it. They want all kitchen knives to be blunted. Now, I don't know that this is getting passed. I didn't read if this was getting passed, but somebody was putting this forward. So
yeah, some dude was sitting there thinking, hey, yeah, the answer is in the tool. And, you know, I see this a lot with gun guys too. I see it a lot with people who are into guns, is that they fetishize the gun. So it's, you know, the answer is always in the tool. So they want red dot sights, and they want lasers, and they want the best trigger, and they want, you know, it's, of course it's a slide stop lever, and, you know, my trigger's weight, you know, it needs to be smoothed out. That's why I'm shooting low left. And so it's always something in the gun. And again, it goes back to that ego thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's that saying, okay, am I willing to put the time in? Am I willing to put the reps in? You know, adult learning andragogy is all about repetition. Am I willing to do that deliberate practice where I'm looking at where I'm weak and trying to drive that one thing? And if I'm willing to put that practice in, then there's going to be great rewards at the end of that. But if I'm trying to patch that with the tool, then there isn't. And it's the same thing with people, politicians believing that it's the tool, it's not the person. And the reality is that it's the person. It's the person. It's not the tool. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and this is why I think what guys like you are doing, and Jared Wahangi and Chad Lyman and all these other guys, I really hope that as this online community starts to gain traction, and these guys are getting more and more views and getting in more and more households, and people that have questions can hop online and have videos come up with these very responsible, well-trained guys. I'm hoping that people will be open to taking a defensive firearms course, taking these classes, because like we were talking about earlier in the podcast, just having a gun doesn't mean you're going to be able to utilize it. You need to be able to, know how to take position and actually know how to do something. It's not this Band-Aid that you go, you have a gun now, ergo you are safe in every situation. Right. What is up, guys? Did you enjoy that video? I know you did. If you want to watch the full version, check the descriptions box below. There will be a link to the full episode of the Martial Media Podcast. And of course, as always, hit subscribe. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.